For the name of discovery, we must explore, Ensign.
But I'm scared.
Ha ha! That's perfectly normal, my boy. Just squeeze your eyes shut as we journey through the lion's den. Zwaichi, he shoots an orb at the black one. The black one falls back, and the yellow one, just ready to be by his side and have his back. He blasts another flare at Zwaichi, and Poltergeist like pushes him out of the way, and he goes into his body. And Zwaichi, he shifts that flare just so much out of the way with his, because he's got an emerald. What powers the millies, their structures, like they can build a little weak orb, or they can put a gem inside their foreheads and it'll give certain qualities. So Zwaichi, he has an emerald one. He has a special Telgen emerald. If you read some of Hostage 100, you'll learn a little bit about the Telgen race and their gems. And the apprentice of the hero will explain that a little bit more. And why this particular emerald in Zwaichi's forehead is very important. So the emerald is the speed gem, and so he shoots out a piece of a speed orb, and it knocks the flare out of the way, and then Poltergeist, like, he's in the black orb, and this sometimes he uses it to possess, to maybe fight the other attackers, but he knows he can see the other orbs and how they're trying to stop their fellow orbs, and he can see that it's really only these two guys, and these other orbs, he just needs to de-escalate the situation. And so he kind of stiffens Black Orb and kind of puts him in his place. And Black Orb, he's fighting and everything. He's trying to move, but he's got a being possessing him, and eventually he just gives up. And so Poltergeist Slide, he flies out. And he says to him, I don't know if y'all think we're a threat or anything, but we're not, and we want to figure out what's going on here. Well, about that time, the blue orb, he steps up. Now the blue orb, let me go back over here to these notes. The blue orb is he's the Boy Scout of the group, and he's very smart with tech and computers and everything, and therefore he has tech powers. So as a tech power, he can see different wires, and he can align them or realign them to program or upgrade something. And then so these orbs, they can also create little gem shards, which is kind of a little opposite of, like, let's say, the orb in which Millie possesses. They're powered by gems. So somehow these orbs, I mean, we're in a different dimension here. These orbs kind of do the opposite, where a gem would manifest them, they can manifest gems. And so the blue orb, he can manifest gem shards to create casings. So he can get some wires, put them together to do whatever he needs them to do, and creates a casing of gem shards around it, or create any kind of structure and build it up with wires and whatnot. And another one of his powers is he can obtain info, especially through this way, and connecting wires to whatnot, and obtain the information that he needs. And he can feed certain information into his own structures. So the blue orb, he steps up to them because he had a hunch about these visitors who were here. And as he was watching, and in particular Zwaichi, as he's watching Zwaichi, he just knew it. He knew that this was the answer to their calls. And they had called and asked for help against Sable. And so therefore the orbs, they asked the Dimension Surfers if they would travel across the bottomless country with them to stop Sable's plan. Well, Voltage, he says, bottomless country, Sable's plan, Sable. And the blue orb says, you'll see soon enough. Well, at least tell us about Sable. Is he some kind of villain? Was he a creator? No, our creator was someone else. Sable is an evil wizard. And Voltage says, and that means we must stop him? Yes. So let me go through here to the notes and explain to you what these orb people are. Of course, they call them each other orbs, but as the dimension sees them, they know of Zweichi's orbs, and this isn't particularly those. These aren't orbs to them. These are orb people. But the orb people themselves call themselves orbs. So there's the black orb and the yellow orb, and I explained to you the blue orb. And then there was also a green orb and a pink orb. That's who's in this pack right here. So these particular orbs, they're special. They're not just any color for a reason. Regular orbs and regular citizens, they're just red orbs. There's nothing special about them, maybe in their personality or whatever, their skills and their talents, just like any other person, any other kind of person. But these particular orbs, they got superpowers. Why? Don't know. We'll find out here eventually. So there is also a green orb and there's a pink orb. Now the green orb is fluid, so they know all the outcomes because they've already been there. They ran there and back. Because the green orb, they have speed powers. They know all the outcomes. They've been there and back. The pink orb is very powerful. She is made of the Termamine gem. If you remember from Hostage 100, Maya used the Termamine gem to shoot her lasers with. The pink orb also has kinetic power, like Gambit from the X-Men. She can create bombs, and she can charge things and make time bombs out of them. Like, she could touch this phone right here that I'm recording on, and give it however long she charges it for, give it an amount of time, and it will blow up. So she can create little, like, she'll charge the phone, or she can stick it somewhere and run off, and yeah. So yeah, these are the orbs for you. These are these orb-manifested people. They got to decide they need to go through this path to get to the bottomless country. But how are they going to cross the path? The path is very winding, and there's obvious decisions. I mean, there's a piece of the path that goes directly to the gates, and which is the gates. They got to go through the gates to get to the bottomless country. And so there's an obvious path that goes through that way. But these orbs, the dimension surfers definitely don't know how long the orbs have lived here, if they're native here or whatever. But they do realize that these orbs have been here at least a little bit longer than they have. And so therefore they know a little bit more about the path than they do. And so the obvious choice may not be necessarily the best choice. So Blue, being the Boy Scout that he is, he says, well, let's travel the safe path to get to the gates. Black Orb says, always the Boy Scouts. Nah, it'd be better if we went the shady path to get to the side cubby of the gates. Well, that means we have to go through cross path, says Blue. Voltage, he's like, oh, hold on, what and what? Fuma, says Black. We have to explain everything to you, strangies. Well, the yellow orb says, followers of each path clash at cross path. And when I say clash, he looks real serious. I mean, they don't get along. Well, Poltergeist Slide, yes. Well, which are better? For that matter, well, what are the different paths? Black Orb laughs. Which are better? Don't be so naive. The Blue Orb says, come on. Like I said, you'll see as we move along. So they get to cross path. A cross path, as you can see on the map, is a little bit out of the way of the safe path. So evidently they didn't go the Boy Scout way. And they see looks like a bear made out of liquid, and it's purple liquid. Zwaichi shudders. I don't know what that is, but it is not keen to my eyes. And the fur was more liquid than fur, if that makes sense. And it's not being necessarily malevolent. It's not really trying to attack anybody per se. It's just asking random passersby if, hey, you want a good time? You want to try some of this? Come on, it's only a few bucks. So other than the dark purple bears, we're going to call it, there were two southern Vildrans. Well, they're from Vildra, and you may have met a Vildra already. Well, there's a Vildra in each, Hostage 100 and Sasquatch and the Scorpion. And Hostage 100 is Sarai, and Sasquatch and the Scorpion is Pice. Pice is also a Vildran. But these are southern Vildrans. They're kind of got a little bit of darker skin than, say, a northern Vildran. And so these two southern Vildrans that they see, one has a helmet that has gazelle horns, and it has a spear. And the other one doesn't have a helmet, but it has a bow and arrow. And they're fighting two red orbs. Remember, the red orbs are the common citizen. And since these two southern Vildrans are fighting one of their own, well, the black orb wants to protect them. He wants to go help the red orbs, but blue tells him no. Well, Poltergeist lied. He says, we're out of our element here, so whatever you say, I guess we go. So maybe Poltergeist light was thinking the same thing black was. I mean, these two red orbs were kind of small. They're about, Vildrans are a small race. They look like humans. They got the human features, but they're a little smaller, about 4 feet or so. And so these red orbs were a little bit smaller and a little bit more their size, the Vildrans. Poltergeist Light says this. He says, well, we may be out of our element, but if you say so, then sure. Voltage, he shakes his head and says, I don't like that. Black Orb walks past me, pats him on the back, and he says, I wouldn't either. Well, the Green Orb, they say, well, the market is on the honorable path. I visited 4 times while we were back there yakking with these guys. They stick their thumb out at the Dimension Surfers. They have a cool game store down there. Pink says, oh, I hope there's food. I'm hungry. You're always hungry. Well, yeah, I have all this metabolism to burn, all this power. I would think you would be too with you running all the time. Blue rubs her chin. Well, we do need supplies, but that's out of our way. We already went out of our way so we can get to the side copy. Well, Green Orb says, you said it, but we need supplies, and runs off. The Blue still sitting there contemplating. I guess we do need supplies. So he starts walking and tinkering with this gauntlet he has on his arm. A little bit different than the Dimension Surfer's gauntlet. It's also blue like his shell, but it's like integrated into his arm. None of the other orbs really have this, but Blue, being the tech orb that he is, this is kind of part of him. He's like almost like a cyborg. He's walking along tinkering with his gauntlet, kind of looking down at it almost like somebody would be going along and, just looking down at their phone, So the Blue Orb is just walking along tinkering with his gauntlet. The Yellow Orb notices that the surfers are kind of reluctant and kind of standing back. So they go ahead and they offer to stay there with him. The Green run back, tells the Yellow that he can go, that they will guide the surfers. Is why Chi says, the blue one is accurate. The short, direct path is the wise one. There is a destination to this mission. Voltage says, our mission is to explore, mosey around. And at that point, Poltergeist Light just takes off. Voltage notices that Zwei is uncomfortable. And so Voltage asks, it's these orbs, isn't it? These things you create for your weapons. Zwei says, they're more than just weapons. They're for construction too. But you're right. This isn't right. They have life. They're sentient and intelligent. They even ride moon llamas as if they're moon turtles. They've built their own philosophies and religions. Voltage kind of stares off into space for a little bit, and he says, I never thought about it that deep. You're right. Now you're starting to creep me out. Zwei sighs. No, relax. I must relax. And he wiggles his shoulders. Get cozy so you can mosey. So after they went through the market and shopped and got all the sorts of neat things that they had found, at the end of the market, kind of at the bottom area, as you can see on the map, you could see here, as you go through the marketplace, you kind of got this bend that loops around, kind of bubbles out. Then you see these structures as you're kind of curving around, and then for a little bit you don't see any structures, but then you go to an area which it's kind of lodged deep into that. It's kind of lodged into the path. And so they're there, right there at the end of the market. Well, what that is, these structures here lead to underground. As it goes away, there's no more path. So, Voltage, he offers, well, how about we go down there? Blue says, that leads to the shady path. Voltage says, so that's the shady path. Black starts walking, says, come on, that's just the stigma of the name. So they're in the shady path underground, and there they see another one of them dark purple bears. They really couldn't tell if the bear was really wet and nasty, or if that was actually the DNA of the liquid of the fur. Well, so the dark purple bear approaches him and offers them some KB. Now the orbs, they're kind of curious. What is KB? Voltage, he stops it right there. He says, no, that's killer bark. Pathetic Rigelians use this. Guess it's even common in this dimension. So then the dark purple bear is like, oh, all right, and just goes along his way. Well, then they see the two southern Vildrens that they saw before. Now they see them with two others. So now there's 4 Vildrens. And so not only was there the one with the gazelle helmet and the spear, and the one with no helmet and a bow and arrow, there was also one with a helmet that was shaped like ram horns, and it had a chain and a mace for a weapon. And then the other one had a pilot's stocking cap with goggles, and for his weapons were these hand propellers. I'll hold them in his hands, kind of a grip, in these propellers. They spin around, so help him to fly, or he could use it to attack people with, because these propellers are blades as well. And these Vildrons, they just wanted to fight. They loved to fight, and they would just start shit for fun. And that's just what they did. Like they did with the 2 red orbs back there. They're just doing this with anybody they can find along the way of the shady path. Black Orb wants to fight them still, because they just keeps pissing them off. And Blue just keeps telling them no. And, you know, the Dimension Surfers are kind of wanting to fight them as well, but they all, for some reason, listen to Blue, and they get up there to cross path. Back up there, you know, so the shady underground just looped back up, you know, into the shady path and right back up in a cross path. Voltage is like, what the hell? How do we get back here? Blue says, good. We can get on with this and get to the gates now, and we can still even choose the honorable path and go through the front gates. Well, about that time, an antelope demon shows up, and he wants to barter with everybody for wishes. He says, hey, I'll take two of those orbs off your hand for a wish. Like, no, we're not going to give up our friends here. And, you know, he sees the emerald in Zweichi's forehead, and he's like, hey, I'll trade that for a wish. And he just relentless, just would not give up. And finally, he's so persistent that eventually he just takes matters into his own hands and he grabs the yellow orb. And the yellow orb is just trying its best. It's trying to heat up the temperature, but for some reason, this is a demonic figure, so um, heat does not bug them at all. And he's trying to make it as bright as he can. But what's that going to do? He's still going to keep holding on to him. And there's nothing he can do. He shoots flares, and it's just not penetrating the skin. And finally, the antelope demon, he's like, all right, I'm going to kill this orb right now, or I can grant you a wish. And right when Blue is getting ready to say, we'll take the wish, the demon slits its throat. And the yellow orb just cracks out open on the floor, on the surface. And it just looks like an egg had just been cracked open. And then the antelope demon says, well, I got what I wanted. I'll see you guys later. And then just vanishes, just poofs out the way. And they're just standing there feeling all helpless. And it's like, they could have stopped this. They're all warriors in their own right. And all they could do was just stand there in fear like cowards while this terrorist, if you will, just goes ahead and kills one of their own, and they did nothing about it. So they're all feeling depressed and mosey and just down on their luck, just depressed, And so they're just walking along and they don't know what to do. I mean, and they know they got to get to the gateway to get across the bottom of this country, but they're doing this to stop Sable. But at this point, do they even want to? Do they want to even put up the effort? So they're just walking through along in the motions. And these two red orbs approach them. And they're looking a little like they're from the Shady Path. One is a bigger orb, and it's about the size of them. And then the other one's a small one that was about the size of the Vildrons were picking on. But the little one he's got a mouth on him, and he just runs it. And it looks like he runs things when it comes to him and the big one. Like the big one works for him. And he's just threaten people with him. He's like, if you don't do what I say, then Shifty here, he's gonna shift you. And that sounded so wrong. And says, hey, I heard y'all going to the bottomless country. And I'm pretty sure you can all make it through. So you're gonna take this pouch to a certain Sasquatch. And if you don't, then Shifty here he's gonna get shifty. And so they're just still all depressed from Yellow Orb that they're just like whatever, and they take it. Usually they'd be a little bit more vigilant about it, a little bit more asking a little bit more questions about it, but at this rate they're just like whatever. He also says, you bring that to this certain Sasquatch. He calls himself Dr. X, and he will give you something in return that you must take back to us. Now, I realize at this point, me and Shifty will not be there to motivate you, if you will. But know that we have our ways. And again, they could have totally solved past that bluff, but they were just out of it. Black, he's like, yeah, all the more reason to go to the side cubby, because we'll never get to the front gates with that. So Blue, he asks him, has Yellow's death muddied up your core? Do you not know me? My core has been muddied since I was manifested. The Black Orb starts walking towards the side cubby. Blue shakes his head. Oh, we're just making your own decisions. We need to settle this as a group. Y'all can settle. I'm going this way with that. And he grabs the pouch from the red orb's hand, and right then and there, he made the decision for them to enter in this shifty, shady deal. So they get to the side cubby, and they go through the gates. There's no gatekeepers at all. Just anybody in it, anybody just passing through. But as they can see up there, up a bit in elevation, is the honorable safe path, and there's these huge gates and there's gatekeepers all around, and you see these innocent people just walking through. And down here, anybody's just getting through the cubby. Like, they're up there, the gatekeepers, they're kind of weeding them out, but down here anybody can just go through. And so as they see, people, all sorts of vehicles and walking through and everything going in and out, they look over, and there it is. They see it. Over the ledge is the bottomless country. And as they look down and they can see up is all sorts of ships. And on the ships, looks like they all have buildings. And these are huge. They're like miles across both ways. Maybe like 50 miles is kind of an average length for them. And wide, I would say probably about 20 there. And they're just stunned. This was a cartoon. Their mouths would be touching the floor. And the Dimension Surfers, they realize what they've gotten themselves into, not only with this little red orb and delivering this to who's ever down there named Dr. X, but these orb people, in which they first thought were harmless, and now they got to cross this bottomless country. And who knows, once they get past there, what this evil wizard Sable is capable of.